Eric Overdorf says older glass hulls are a dime a dozen. So are used two-stroke engines. All the boats I've had have been fixer-uppers. If you're a handy guy, you can end up with a nice boat for little money. Have more pride in the one when you brought it back to life yourself. This is a great comment and a great subject to start this podcast off. Welcome back to the Boaters Podcast, everybody. Today we're on a solo cast, and I actually forgot my mic stand, so now I'm going to be holding this mic the entire podcast this episode. So this week is sponsored by you guys. Anybody that has purchased merch from the bornagainboatingshop.com or anybody that is involved in our school community, you can check that out using the links in the description below. But you guys are what brings this content and makes this happen. Now, I like this comment from Eric myself personally because that's basically how I've always been into boating. Like, that's how I got into boating, fixer-upper. That's how I basically stayed into boating, fixer-uppers, and that's basically how I've done everything and gotten to where I am now is all from fixer-uppers. Like he said, you can be out there on the water for very little money with just buying a boat. They're a dime a dozen. They are, especially if you live up north. I do have a comment from somebody that is talking more about South Florida, depending on where you boat. I'll find that comment in a minute about depending on where you boat, depends on the kind of boat that you need. Now, obviously, finding a boat with twin engines, 31, 32-foot boat with twin engines, obviously going to be a way bigger project and cost way more. But if you live up on a lake or something like that, you can usually find like an 18-foot, 20-foot, 21-foot, and there are a dime a dozen. You can find them for $1,000, $2,000, and with very minimal money, put some carpet in it, get some upholstery done. As long as the engine is working. Up north, the big problem is that everybody's got a cracked block because they don't winterize them. And if they forget to winterize them, then they sit over the winter, crack the block. That's a whole different story because now you got to change the entire power head. But for the most part, you can find these older glass hulls that don't really have any big issues. The main issues that we talk about are the fuel tanks, the transoms, and the stringers and the floors. Like if you have to get into those kinds of projects, but if you're handy, especially on like a lake boat where everything's carpet, you don't have to be an expert in glass work for a soft deck. You can literally take the carpet up, grind that down to get to solid subfloor, or reinforce it and then glass it, and you don't have to finish it like to perfection. You just finish it, roll gel coat on it. As long as it's smooth, when you put your carpet down, no one's ever going to know what that looks like underneath there. So it's really not that bad. And it's just the way of getting into it with minimal amount of money and being out there. And like he said, you can have more pride that you brought it back yourself and have a decently nice boat, depending on how much work that you do. So the engine's going to be the number one thing. And then like he's saying, if he's buying older hulls and two-stroke engines and buying a two-stroke for $400 or $500, putting it on the boat, and you're decently handy, you can get yourself out on the water for a couple grand and do it in somewhat of a style, depending on how nice and how much work you're willing to do. So I agree with this 100%. It's pretty much how I've gotten into everything. Like I said, I can't even remember how many boats I've got, but out of all the boats that I've done, they're all fixer-uppers. Every single one, from IO conversions to just straight up doing transoms. I mean, I've done, I don't know, maybe 5 transoms now, like on my own personal boats. I think 5 personal boat transoms. So, I mean, it's, once you learn to do them, it's kind of like, that's what you do. So I'm with you 100%. That's basically what my whole channel and brand is all about, is buying the older boats and fixing them up. So with you 100% there, Eric. Andrew Polasek, he says, I have an impeller question. I often dry start my engine from cold, the Yamaha 92-stroke, to ensure it will start when I get down to the ramp. As soon as the engine fires up, I shut it off. Am I doing any damage since the engine is still cold? Or similarly, when doing a compression test on a cold engine, spark plugs removed, does it need to be on the must with water running? The compression test, no. You don't need the compression test. You're not spinning over. It's the speed for the compression test. So, oh man, this is a tough question because there's going to be so many different opinions about this, and like there's a right and wrong answer to all of this. Obviously, the right answer is no. You don't want to dry fire the engine because you can mess up the impeller. But it's a rubber impeller, and the big thing that burns them up is the speed. The speed and the RPM that the engine is running at is what gets the rubber hot, melts them, and wears them down to where they lose their flex. So in a short, no, you shouldn't do that. But based on what you're saying, like your compression test, you don't have the speed when you're turning over to get compression, so no problem there. You don't need water, don't need muffs to do a compression test. You should start the engine and run it up, let it heat up to get your rings hot, to get your pistons, like to heat up the engine, get everything hot before you get your compression numbers. But, you know, I mean, a lot of people do cold compression tests too. Theoretically, you want it to be hot, but no, you don't need water to do that. As far as your other impeller question, I totally understand where you're coming from on this, because you are basically, like, let's say you got a 20, 30 minute drive down to the ramp to splash the boat. And, well, I mean, I guess you're just kind of being lazy about not wanting to put water to it to start it. But I totally get it. Like, you know, depending on where you've got the boat, where it's parked, you might not even have water. So just firing up, make sure it turns over and kicks up, and then turning it off to, you know, make sure that you're not having problems when you get down to the ramp. Everybody should be doing that. Totally understand, depending on, especially an old two-stroke engine, yeah, you kind of want to make sure that thing fires up. So if you're only doing this like once or twice a month, you're not going to be causing any damage. And depending on your maintenance schedule, like if you're actually doing your impellers every couple of years, you're not going to do enough damage to give you any issues. Now, if you're doing this 3 times a week, yeah, you're going to eventually wear that impeller out, because it's dry. You're doing dry rubber against the metal water pump impeller housing, and that cup, it is going to eventually wear out the impeller, and it will cause damage. But once or twice a month, it's not enough to cause damage that's going to cause you an issue by the time you do an impeller on your engine. Now, if you don't do your impeller but every 10 years, then yeah, you'll probably eventually start to have a weak water pressure, but that's about the end of it. Now, if you got a very, very, very old impeller that's brittle, then yeah, you're risking snapping a blade on the impeller. But in the short, what you're asking, my stripped down answer is no, you're not going to be having an issue. It's fine what you're doing. Start it as soon as it kicks up, boom, you turn it off. Like, it's also the exhaust, because when you run the engine, the exhaust makes it hot, which heats everything up. But again, as soon as it kicks over, you turn it off. So there's no heat, there's no speed. It's going to take a lot of times doing that to mess up your impeller. Mutt to Jeff says, bruh, I don't know who you got wrapping your boat for a couple $100 or $1,000, but I want their number. I just paid $6,000 for just a top deck refresh. I have not priced out a wrap in a while. Usually I use Jordan with Wraps on Right. He's in like, I can't remember, Fort Myers, Tampa area, but that's normally who I've always done wraps through. But I haven't wrapped a boat in probably 2 years, 3 years. No, 4 years. Probably about 4 years since I wrapped a boat. So my prices are going to be way different. But I mean, how big of a boat are you talking about here? Because $6,000 for the top deck refresh. Wraps usually go, depending on like the material that you're using and also the graphics. That's what really kicks in the expense, is because you're talking about ink at that point. If you're getting plain colors, wraps are not that bad. If you're getting graphics done and a bunch of other stuff, then yeah, they can get pretty expensive. Like you said, you paid $6,000 for just a top deck refresh. I don't know what you mean by the top deck, but yeah, they can get expensive. I mean, I might be a little, I can't even keep up with prices on anything. It's pretty unfortunate, because I try and talk about topics that, you know, something that was 2 years ago, you're outdated. Like the things that you know of that you've done 2 years ago, it's outdated information. Like what you paid and what you did on your boat or whatever the situation was 2-3 years ago, it's completely different now. Like whether it be the price of the parts, the price of the labor, the ability of the people to do the job, or the availability of someone to do work, it's like it's hard to even keep up with what the heck's going on, because like everything's just changing so quickly. So I mean, maybe I am a little outdated. Maybe it is like $6,000 just to do the top wrap on a boat. Usually, depending on how big it is, I mean, by and large, the one that I was looking at, 21 footers, 24 footers, you're like $1,000 to $3,000 to do the wrap. So maybe I'm way outdated on my pricing. Snowball says, if I cut off the gas and let it die, it will fire right up. If I don't, it won't. Sounds like a vapor lock. You're missing a lot of information here. I don't even know. I'm going to try and talk about this, but like generally, if you try and start an engine and it just dies, like if if you cut off the gas, so you cut off the gas supply to an engine, it's going to die. Now, if you are like priming it up and you can get it to start, but then as soon as you like turn the gas on, it dies, you got a fuel issue. It's flooding out, and that's why it's dying, is because it's flooding out the cylinders. Now, if you vapor lock, I'm just trying to even understand here. If I cut off the gas and let it die, it will fire right up. If I don't, it won't. Oh, okay. I think I get what you're saying here. You're saying you start running your engine, boom, you can run for a long time, all good to go. You're running, and no problems. If you shut the key off and let the engine die, it won't restart. But if you shut the gas off and do a restart, you let it die out on its own, it will fire right up. 100% that's vapor lock. I mean, like, that's exactly like, I don't know if I could explain vapor lock any better than that, where the heat, so you didn't turn off your gas and you let it sit, the engine's hot, and so the fuel is heating up and it's pushing it into your carburetors or whatever, depending on the type of engine, which is flooding it out, so then you can't restart it. It's a hot restart issue. So, yeah, that's a vapor lock for sure, 100%. That's a really good way to explain it. I don't really know what the comments about, but yeah, no, that's a vapor lock situation where you run your engine for an hour, you kill the gas to it, let it die, and then you go to start it up, prime it up, boom, fires right up, good to go. If you don't, then you let it sit, it's hot, it pushes fuel in, floods itself, won't start. Yeah, hot restart, that's pretty much it. You pretty much got it on the nose, so I think that's pretty much the comment section there. Boat Fishers says, depends where you boat. This is the one I was talking about earlier. It depends on where you boat. Ocean and coastline gets expensive. Inland lakes and reservoirs, you can buy the really old boats that'll get you in the water super cheap. Don't need insurance, no special regulations, and cost is minimal. That's exactly right. Like, that's been my experience too. Like, you can go today, and like, if you go in Georgia, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, like anywhere, these Bayliners, Rinkers, Sea Rays, like Four Winds, like there are just tons of brands that are these 18, 17s, 21s. These, you're just normal, plain old Jane with a 350 or a 5.7 or a 4.3 liter Mercruiser OMC, these inboard engines. It's basically like a Chevy block in it. You can generally find these boats a dime a dozen, and yeah, for a minimal amount of work, you can pretty much get out there on the water and be like putting around. Now, granted, with these older boats, there's maintenance and stuff like that. Back to the being handy, because a lot of them you're doing, there might be a lower unit issue where you got to do impellers, stuff like that, gimbal bearings that are worn out, belts, water pumps, just all the kind of miscellaneous stuff that regular service is going to maintain. Your shift cables, your throttle cables, stuff like that, the bellows that are dry rotted out, you changing that. A lot of it has to do with taking the stern drive off of the engine and doing the bellows, the gimbal bearings, the shift cables, like that kind of stuff. You're doing that miscellaneous stuff. Outside of that, yeah, for a couple grand, you can generally get a boat and get it out on the lake. And since you're on a lake, you're not going offshore. You don't have to have all this fancy stuff. You're literally, you put it in at the ramp, and let's say the lake's 4 miles long, 5 miles wide. Like, you're to the other side in no time. You're just going to the beach, you go on the sandbar, you're going to Party Cove or wherever and hanging out. It's like, or tubing around, you're wakeboarding, you're surfing, what everybody likes to do now. So it is a lot less expensive to get out on the water. But like you said, whenever you get to the coastline or you get offshore, it gets expensive, because now we're talking about bigger boats, bigger fuel tanks, and a lot more stuff, bigger engines that are more expensive, and a lot more bells and whistles and GPS and chart plotters and all that kind of stuff that makes it kind of usable and then safe to use. If you're going 20 miles offshore, you don't really want to be running in a force engine or something like that that's just rinking and just ready to fall apart. That's not going to be good for you. But you're usually like $5,000 or so. To have a reliable boat, you're probably even looking $5,000 to $10,000 just for an offshore boat. So yeah, it is a little bit more expensive. Obviously, the bigger the boat you get, the more expensive it's going to be. But I agree with you, boat fishers. That is something that, like, if you're new to boating, or if you've been boating for a while, you probably know that kind of stuff. But newer to boating, that's a better way of getting into it. Tim Halfley says, what about fuel treatments? I use Seafoam and a Mercury 225 two-stroke, 2002, no issues so far. I use non-ethanol gas. I mean, fuel treatments, yes. It's even more on four-strokes. So, like, if you've got a four-stroke, it's a lot more pertinent to use a fuel treatment like ring-free, quick clean, just something that's going to burn carbon, because that's the big issue with the four-strokes is you got a carbon issue. So that is generally what I would look at, as long as you're using something. But even on top of that, you can get away with missing fuel treatments. Using the non-ethanol gas is probably a bigger one for me, because if you use ethanol gas, you need to burn all that immediately. The fuel treatments, yeah, Seafoam, the Startron, the ring-free, the quick clean, like all that stuff is good, mainly to stabilize the fuel, but also non-ethanol is pretty stable as is. Like, I've seen people use non-ethanol fuel, let it sit for 2-3 years, take it out, and just go run the boat, no issues. So it's actually way more stable than ethanol. You can't let ethanol sit like that. But the main thing with the treatment is the carbon. It's to clean the fuel injectors, clean the cylinders, clean the rings, clean the valves, and just all that stuff. Your intake, that is mainly the big thing with the fuel treatment, in my opinion. All right, Seaski 13 says, millennials, I'm 28. Says, can't afford to buy boats and everything that comes along with it. It's even harder to justify spending boatloads of cash if you live in an area with a short season, northern East Coast, etc. That being said, I just bought my first boat over the spring, finally got some skin in the game. Can I afford it? And that's still up for debate. I mean, I think you can. I think the whole discussion and kind of what we're talking about for the most part with a couple of these comments today is that you get in. You don't have to get on the water and be like $150,000 boat. Like, you don't need a $250,000 Mastercraft to enjoy being on the water. You can buy a 20, 25-year-old Bayliner and be putting around the lake. It isn't anything about the look of the boat or any of the other stuff. Like, if it's got some faded hull, so what? As long as the engine's good and the electronics and stuff work, and you've got decent cushions to like sit on, like, and you're not sitting on, milk crates, I think you could easily get on the water for a lot cheaper up there with shorter seasons than, spending a boatload of cash on stuff like all the other stuff. I think that people have just gotten the idea that reliability is new. New doesn't mean reliable. New just means new and nice. I mean, like that's it. Like, there's still tons of older stuff that is reliable. It's just what you're saying is it's a perception thing, in my opinion. To the millennials and all the younger people, it's a perception thing of needing something brand new for it to be reliable. Maybe it's a skill set. Maybe it is an idea of the skill set. Whereas, when you grow up and you have to fix everything in order to have anything, then you kind of get the mentality of, I can fix anything with time and money, and you can do anything that you want to do. You just have to kind of fix it up and maintain the stuff. So maybe there's a mentality or a mindset where people just don't have the confidence in, I can take this thing apart. I can figure out how to fix it. I can put it back together. Maybe might be a part of it. And maybe that's why people lean to buying new or lightly used within, 5-year-old, 10-year-old thing. That means that they don't have to mess with anything. That could very well be kind of an issue with newer people getting into boating, or younger people, and not having the confidence of older people that have built homes their whole life, or worked on their car and their driveway, dealing with the points and condensers and all the other stuff. Like, maybe that could be a discussion to be had. I'm sure the comments would be a good place to talk about that kind of stuff, because I know a lot of you that are older that have all the experience and all the confidence to basically work on anything. Stars Over Jersey says, the job advice is great advice, but it is a 10 to 15-year-old advice. Different generation, economy, and trends. I didn't have to break the bank, but I had to put in a lot of hours to restore my 1989 Mako 210 last year. That is a very good statement. I'm probably also somebody that falls in this category as well. Like jobs and advice, like totally true. Like I was just saying about the mindset and younger people and not having the same experience or the confidence of like being able to work on stuff. 10 to 15 years ago, the way I got jobs was because confidence and persistence. Like somebody didn't want to give me a job. Like I just kept showing up until I got the job. So it was kind of like, it is a different generation. It's a different economy. There are different trends. There are different opportunities than there was back then. I mean, you know, the opportunities for people today are just astronomically different than they are, you know, back in the day. Like back in the day, you know, everything was either one, informational, or two, service-based, like straight up industrial service-based work. Now, I mean, people these days, you know, they open a drop shipping store and making $100,000 a month. It's like, you know, it's crazy, the skill sets. And then people that are in AI, people that are in Bitcoin, like there are totally so many different opportunities and the way people look at things that, yeah, it's different advice. Back in the day, yeah, you would want to get with a company and do like your own thing. But now it's kind of like you should really invest in yourself and your experience and your know-how in order to do what you want to do. Like getting with a company and working with that company for 20, 30 years. Yeah, I think it is different generation, different economy, it's a different time than it is today. And the corporate ladder to most people is just not, I don't do it. So, you know, there is that. I don't know if I got anything else on that comment. I think, yeah, you don't have to break the bank, but you do put a lot of man hours into restoring the boats. Mountaineer Mine says kids are getting into boating, just not with full-size boats. Move your attention from full-size boats and over to the kayak johnboat category. Okay, yeah, this one for sure. It's something that I'm not really into, but I know is a massive category. I know I've got a lot of friends that actually started in with the kayak fishing and the john boat, the micro skiffs, the john boat category, the jet skis. People are outfitting jet skis to go fishing. Like it really is, the kayak john boat category really has grown astronomically. There's a lot of YouTubers too. They're like, their whole channel is specifically on kayak fishing. And I know, I mean, my buddy, that's how he got into it. He was kayak fishing and then got into a 17-foot boat. So it's kind of like, you know, they got into it and kind of worked their gear on the kayak doing rivers and stuff like that before they get into from a kayak to a john boat to a flats boat. Like, yeah, 100%. That is something that I probably should spend a little bit more time. I was just never into the kayak fishing stuff, but it's a big genre or class of boating that I guess kids are getting into. It's interesting how things change so quickly from generation to generation. Med 101 says many hobbies are dying. The rise of social media and virtual realities. Yeah, I mean, I think the hobbies just change. It's not that hobbies die, it's they change. You know, people that have train sets or model airplanes or RC cars or like different hobbies. I think boating as a hobby in general, like look at golf and stuff like that, like hunting, fishing, diving, golf, softball, like side-by-sides, four-wheelers, ATVs, dirt bikes. Like, I don't know if the hobbies are dying. It's just they have different groups and they're warping. Like, you know, the fishing going from like being able to get into a boat for real cheap and go fishing. Now people are doing the kayak fishing. Kayak fishing is coming up a lot and other categories are not. John boat category, boom, exploding with these tiny boat nation and all these other things. Whereas like other hobbies are just kind of like, some hobbies are dying, but I think new hobbies are like coming onto the scene that you didn't really think about, that just change with the economy and with the times and generation and stuff like that. I think that in the end though, people still want to be outside. Like people do want to be outside. Yeah, you got, you know, video games and stuff like that people want to spend a lot of times on video games. But at the same time, people that play video games still do like to do outside stuff. Like it's not like people just in general want to spend all the time inside, unless depending on where you live. Like if you live in somewhere that's snowing all the time, then yeah, you might find that you enjoy being inside most of the time. But other than that, I think I don't know if I could say that there's a ton of hobbies that are dying or they are just evolving or changing into a different genre of that hobby. Samuel Thomas says, I desperately need help. Here's my situation. I have a Merc 90 2005 four-stroke. I got it and it ran well, but after 10 minutes of running, there was a puff of smoke that came from the electrical area, not the exhaust. Now it blows the 30 amp fuse whenever a battery is connected. It doesn't even take the key to turn it for it to blow. Hey, you just gotta, this is a visual look into the problem type of situation. Like your engine just caught on fire, something gave out. Now, usually a puff of smoke, something like that, you're talking about probably a relay or something like that. Your relay, hopefully it wasn't the computer, but most likely it could even be something as simple as your trim relay, something that is connected directly to the battery, which would be trim relays, main power relays, stuff like that. So whenever you connect your battery, it pops the 30 amp fuse. You just have to go to that electrical panel and look at undo the zip ties, take the plastic stuff off, and figure out if there was smoke, you got fire. And if you got fire, you're going to see remnants of a fire. Like somewhere there's going to be a burned wire, there's going to be a melted relay, you're going to have melted plastic somewhere. Like you're going to see signs of what's bad. So you just need to take this thing apart and figure out what component failed and caught on fire, and then fix all the wiring and all the stuff around it. Like, I don't know if you're in desperate need of help. You're in desperate need of taking things apart and narrowing down which item was the one that failed and what caught on fire and fixing that. So that's kind of where you're at. I don't, there's not much else I can do to help you on that one, because you literally just need to follow the smoke, look for the fire, what's burned, what's melted, and then you got to, fix each item one at a time. All right. Mike Elks says twin F-150s, 2004 model, 987 hours. What do you think? For this, I think it's a math game. So I'm going to do 987 hours divided by 2004, which means 2025. We're talking 21 years or 20 years. I'm going to divide that by 21. I'm going to divide it by 20. We'll do 20 years. No, it's 20. Let's do 21. Let's do 21 years. And you're talking 47 hours. So 47 hours per year is what was put on these engines. Now, was this engine ran, or were these engines ran regularly 47 hours per year? That's probably pretty reasonable depending on where you live. If you have a boating season of 3 months, that's 12 weekends. If you do 47 divided by 12, that's, let's say, what is that? That's roughly 4. You're at roughly 4 hours per weekend. If you go out on the lake and you put over to a fishing spot, you put out the trolling motor, you fish a bank or whatever, or you run over to this spot, run over to that spot, and then turn your engine off, float, drift, fish. I would say that's probably pretty reasonable. 4, maybe it's every other weekend. You're spending 8 hours in one day. 50 hours. If you live in one of these places where you're only fishing on a 5-mile lake, I would say that's pretty reasonable. Now, is that used every year, or is that 987 hours got put on there from 2004 until 2007, and now the engines have been sitting since 2007? Two different situations. Depending on the situation would depend on what I think if they're good engines or not. If they were used annually in that location, in that situation, all day, good engines, 2004 F-150s, I'd take them all day. If they were used hard, put away, and have been sitting for 15 years, that's a different conversation. They're going to be less desirable to me, but an F-150, Yamaha F-150 is a stupid, reliable, desirable engine, regardless of the condition, unless it's blown up or just completely clapped out. Two situations that you don't want to mess with that engine. Mako Man says, why don't Yamaha gauges show numerical pressures? If I add a water pressure sensor, do I get the number or dummy bars? This is one of the biggest things that I don't like about Yamaha, is that they do not. They put little arrows with little bars, and it's you got 3 bars. What does 3 bars mean? What is the temperature of 3 bars? 3 bars doesn't tell me anything. Why can't you just put a number on here? I'm looking at the oil pressure. What is my oil pressure? 2 bars. Well, what is 2 bars? Is 2 bars 50 psi? Is it 40 psi? Is it 70 psi? Like, what's 2 bars? Like, I do not understand this. One gripe that I have with Yamaha, why can't you put numerical values on this stuff? If you add the water pressure sensor, you're going to get the bars. You're going to get the little bars and the arrow, and like, that's what you're going to get. I don't know why they do it. That's one of my biggest complaints about Yamaha gauges, stuff like that, is like, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, why can't it be a number? Something with value. What's the temperature of my engine? 137 degrees. That is valuable. What's the oil pressure? 67 psi. That is valuable. What is my block water pressure? You have 4 psi of water pressure. That is valuable information. The bars, to me, is, I guess the line of thinking is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or if it's wrong, it'll tell you. I'm more of an information kind of guy. I'd rather have the information but yeah, I don't know why they do that. Jevin Rude Dude says, I have an Evinrude Ficht with a bad oil injection system, and I was wondering if I could put carburetors on it and convert it to run 50-to-1 premix. I talked about that to an Evinrude tech, and they said yes, it is possible, but every time I check online, it says I can't. What is your opinion? So, like I said earlier, my opinion is that I can fix anything with time and money. You can build, have anything you want with time and money. And there's a few issues with this. Do I think you can take carburetors, put it on an Evinrude Ficht, and make it run? Yes. Probably, with time and money. Do you really want to do that and spend that time? That I don't know, because there's a lot of things that you need to be thinking about here. One, an Evinrude Ficht is a direct injection. You're talking about taking your injectors off, or you're talking about plugging them off so that way you're not losing any compression out of your cylinder or having any issues there. So you're plugging that. But the real issue is your intake. You've got to somehow figure out how to get the fuel and air to be sent in there. I mean, you're basically going to be sending your fuel and air in through where the injectors were. So there's that kind of like mechanical aspect that needs to be figured out. And then how to mount your carburetors to get them to go. Then you're throttling. How are you going to throttle this thing? That's kind of going to need to be fabricated. And then the bigger problem, you could probably fabricate all the fuel system and get carburetors to inject. But I don't know. Mechanically, maybe you can get all that to do. I don't really like this is out of my scope. Like, I wouldn't spend the time, money to do this. That's just me. But another thing that you need to be thinking about is the electrical system. Your electrical system, to make the spark plugs fire when they need to fire in the firing order that they need to fire based on the fuel ratio that's being supplied from a carburetor, which is completely different from an injector that is inserting like a very exact amount of fuel and oil ratio. Like, it's way finer. Carburetors, everything's a lot looser. You're just slinging fuel and oil into the engine. Whereas the injector, it's like the time that the injector goes off and when the spark plug goes off is like very precise. So getting that to work together, I mean, like, you're kind of asking a lot out of that one. Like, do you really want to spend the time to figure out all of those barriers? I mean, yeah. Could you do it? Probably. And could it be simple? Possibly. I don't know. I mean, like, one, where are you going to get your carburetors? Two, like, how are you going to mount them up? Like, what are we talking about? Taking carburetors off of an Ocean Runner or something like that, and taking the carburetor assembly off of your Ocean Pro and matching that up based on the 250? Like, if you've got a 250 Ficht and you're going to try and take a Ocean Pro 250 set of carburetors and then fabricate those to fit onto the Ficht, I mean, there is a lot of, there's a lot of questions there. And whether you want to spend the time and money to make that happen, that'd be my bigger question. I would not spend that time. I would not spend that money. I would go find something else and put it on there and get rid of the Ficht. Like, that's what I would do. Or I would fix the oil injection system. But outside of that, like, because how much are you going to spend to find that carburetor? Like, I don't know. That's a very loaded question that time and money It's your time, it's your money. I wouldn't do it. GSX 600 Racer says, I wish hydrofoils made a comeback. I remember watching videos from the 60s where the government had experimental hydrofoil boats and ships, which were so cool to watch. Electric boats will take a while to catch on at some point, but I think it will be a toy for the rich. Yeah, electric boats are they're going to definitely find their own, they're very limited use. They're very limited use. Are they cool? Yes. Are they, have their own problems? Yes. But are they economical and reasonable in a certain situation for certain people? 100%. 100%, there is a world for electric stuff. I'm not a guy that's going to say that electric has no place, because I think it does. I think there are certain lakes, there are certain types of boats, there are certain power systems that it makes a lot of sense to do it. Now, the hydrofoils, though, they're not really, it's a very specific, look at the America's Cup. They are all hydrofoil boats. So there is a place for that. But as far as a recreational boat, for one, when you're not on plane, them things are your draft is a massive problem now. So where you can take the boat and how you can use it, kind of an issue. Unless it's retractable and deployable, there's some logistical issues on that one. I think they're cool, but in a recreational sense for recreational boating, I don't think they'll make a comeback. I think they are a good experiment, and they do have a lot of benefits to them. Like I said, the America's Cup is hydrofoils. But other than that, you guys have a great week. Great episode today. We'll see you guys next week, probably with a different guest, not just me. Hey there, sorry to take you away from the video, but real quick, did you know that on average a boat owner will spend between $1,000 and $5,000 a year just on servicing their engine? And you could actually pocket and save a lot of that money if you would just do the service yourself. It might seem like a daunting task, but I guarantee you virtually everyone can do it with our guidance and the Boaters program. This is just one skill that you could learn inside the program, because we have hundreds of other videos teaching you all kinds of boating skills, as well as a weekly live stream where we have questions and answers with me, as well as a chat feature where you can send videos and pictures, ask all kinds of questions, or look for some advice or some guidance on a project that you're doing on your boat. You can join the program by hitting the first link in the description, clicking join, or visiting bornagainboating.com. Now back to the video.